Alone to die, but I made it out. And you know what? I've learned something. God, doesn't matter how wrinkled I am, he'll take me right on back together. I looked at this text here, and our theological thesis today is God's favor supersedes the natural order of circumstances in situations of everyday life. Let me say that again. God's favor supersedes the natural order of circumstances and situations in our everyday life. And I want to take just a few moments to unpack this particular text here for us. Brothers and sisters, when I look at this text here, our story goes back, and no one really knows who wrote Ruth. We're not sure as to when Ruth was written. Some say it was, maybe 1,100 years before Christ, and based on the lineage of David's kingship. But I don't want to get too analytical today in biblical archaeology. I just want you to know it was written a long time ago. That's written a long time ago. And when I look at this, there's some principal characters in this book. The book of Ruth is a love story. It is a modern day soap opera. I mean, if there was social media, this would be the #1 hashtag. I look at this text, and I see here a couple of people that I want you to understand and remember their name. The first one is this guy named Elimelech. That's Naomi's husband. He also, incidentally, happens to be the great-great-grandfather of King David. Then there was Naomi, the wife of Elimelech, who was the great-great-grandmother of David. And Elimelech and Naomi have 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. Oh, you guessed it right. They're from the neighborhood. Mahlon and Chilion. Say it with me, Mahlon and Chilion. Now, later we find 2 women, Orpah, O-R, not Oprah, Orpah and Ruth. And then later on, Obed and Boaz. Now, here's what happened. Naomi and her husband, Ruth, lived a wonderful life. They enjoyed the pulchritudes of Jewish culture. They were wealthy. They lived in Bethlehem, and things were going great for them. Then all of a sudden, the land went into travail. The clouds dried up, and a drought came. And all of a sudden, they would go out and they would look at their possessions, and they would notice the farm is drying up. Can't feed the animals. The crops are going bad. And we've got some situations we've got to handle. And so Elimelech and his wife, Naomi, decide we've got to take the boys and we've got to leave here because we've got to go where there's rain. So they packed the little wagon. They put everything in a little minivan station wagon. And they hook up the animals, and they prepare to travel. And they leave Bethlehem, and they go to a place called Moab. Now, Moab was a pagan place. You know, Moab, the beginnings of Moab was rough. Lot and his incestuous relationship, and just wasn't nothing really good out of Moab. Moab was often connected with Ammon, which was often connected with Sodom and Gomorrah in conversation. And so we're leaving this house of bread, this holy place of Bethlehem, and we're going to a pagan place that has a different God. But we got to find bread, so we've got to go. So they strap everything up, they pack up, and they travel on. And I need you to leave Miami for just a few moments and go with me there. And so we travel, and it's a long road, and they're talking. If you can just eavesdrop on the conversation, how they're sharing about, it's hard to leave home. I wonder how cousin them gonna do, and Aunt Pookie and all of the children and his nephews, how they gonna do with us gone. But we've got to go, we've got to make it. And they get there, and they land in a strange land. Everything was different. The food was different, the music was different, the culture was different, the clothing was different, the folks' faces looked different, the language, the dialect, everything was different. They're no longer in Bethlehem. They're in Moab. So they began to start working, and all of a sudden God starts blessing them. And they began to obtain wealth. Isn't it interesting that when you walk with God, God will walk with you? It's amazing that no matter where you are, when the providence and sovereignty of God pushes you in a situation, God will bless you in any situation that you end up in. So they're there. Now, while they're working, those two boys, remember, Marlon and Killian, boys will be boys. They brought home some girls. Marlon brought home a girl named Ruth. Killian brought home a girl named Orpah. These were Moab girls and these were Jewish boys, but it didn't matter to them because to them at the time, a girl was just a girl. I wish I had a witness in the house. And so they get together and they share text here and there, love notes here and there, and they share giggles and they sit close and they hold hands, and after a while they get married. And everything's going fine, and we got this transplant family, and everything is wonderful, but tragedy strikes. Elimelech dies. The patriarch of the family dies. But we're okay. We're okay. Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth, they're good. They still got two strong young bones. I don't know what's going on, but 10 years after them there, those two guys died. If you was back in Georgia where I'm from, they'd have said somebody had a white liver. Somebody pray with me. So now we've got 3 women by themselves in a harsh environment. And so word came to Naomi, you know, back home where you're from, things are better now. You know, the city is growing up now and the rain is falling and God's sending bread. She says, good, I'm going home. Her name, Naomi, means my joy. And so she left her joy, but now she's empty. Things are gone. And she says, but I'm going home. So she tells her daughter-in-laws, I'm going home. They say, great, let's go. They get going. And just as they get on the road, she says, you know what, stop. Everybody stop. I can't take y'all with me. I can't do it. Listen, y'all, I'm old. You two girls, y'all still got it going on. When you walk in the room, people still look. They don't look at me anymore. I can't go have no sons, and you couldn't wait on them to marry them. Y'all go, she says, go and get y'all some new husbands. And they start crying. Oh, we can't leave. And Orpah says, thank you. And Orpah gets out of the car and she goes back to thank you, Lord. But Ruth says, no. She says, you are my mother-in-law and don't ask me no more. Where you go, I'm going. So they travel in and they get into Bethlehem. And the text says, I'm out of chapter 1 now. I'm getting in chapter 2. So they drive in, and when they come in, everybody in town stop. Is that Naomi? And the guys are like, who is that with her? And the chatter goes around town. Naomi is back. Somebody says, hey, Naomi. She says, don't you call me Naomi. My name, Naomi, meant my joy, but God has dealt with me bitterly, and I'm Mara, meaning bitter. I left full, and I'm back empty. I'm worse off coming back than I was when I left. My husband dead. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that was it. So get out of my face. So they go to the house, and they're sitting there, and Ruth says, we need something to eat. Do you mind if I go to one of these barley fields? Because they got there at the end of summer, during the beginning of spring, and the barley harvest had come in. She says, let's go. I need to feed the family. And so she says, well, go out. And this is what the cultural custom is. You go to a field, and you don't go in the field. You just get behind the workers, and you pick up what was left behind. It's called gleaning. And you just pick up the leftovers, all right? Don't get in the way. Just pick up the leftovers. Are you listening to me? So she gets up and she goes and she picks a field. I'll take that field. She just went to the field. And she stood there by the side and she picked up and while she's working, the guys are talking. Look at her over there. I ain't never seen her before. Is she new to the hood? what's her name? Oh, no. Check it out. That's the girl that came back with Naomi. That was Marlon's girl. Really? Oh, Marlon down the road. Yeah. Why she bad? Yeah. And so they kept working, and you know the brothers, they began to perform. You know, they went from picking to and after a while, Boaz comes to the field. And this is the text because it's in chapter 2. Boaz comes to the field just to check on it. How y'all doing? We're doing good, Mr. Boaz. Everything is fine. We're working, sir. Everything. We're on track. Good. And Boaz riding, he says, he goes up the road. He comes back to the foreman. He says, hey, who is that girl over there? Oh, that's the girl that came back. I believe her name is Ruth. That's the one that came back with Naomi. And Boaz says, really? Yeah. And so then, now, verse 5 opens the core of this text. Because what I see here in favor in the fields is I see a young lady who's in a strange place and is about to have her life changed, not by anything that she did or earned, but because of something that's about to be given to her, which is grace. And that's how all of us made it in here today, by grace. Every little thing that happened as a blessing in your life was a matter of God's favor and grace. You didn't have to earn it, but I wonder if I'm talking to anybody living in a house that your credit wasn't good enough for you to buy. Driving a car that when you filed for the credit, the bank sent a letter back and they didn't have any explanation. It just said, type, ha, 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 ha. But is anybody here blessed on ha, ha, ha credit? You got a job that you didn't have the degree or the background to get, but God sent favor ahead of you. Favor in the fields. And so I'm looking at her, and she's sitting here, and he comes and has a conversation. So I see the favor of pursuit in the text, the favor of pursuit. Boaz says to the servants, who is this young lady? Says, well, her name is Ruth, she's the Moabite, who came back with Naomi, verse 6 and verse 8. Then Boaz said, well, I need to have a little conversation with her. So he goes over to her, and verse 8, he says, excuse me, Ruth, how are you? I'm fine. Now, let me bear in mind, now, Boaz is a little older than these guys. So just as we know who we're talking about, I'm going to call him an OG for just a moment. Because you heard the scriptures, only an OG know how to move like he been moving. Come on, talk to me, somebody. So Boaz comes to the table in verse 8. He says, Ruth, listen, my daughter, listen, stay right here. You don't have to go to anybody else's field to glean, dear. You don't have to go down to Leroy, Ricky, Thomas. Your favor is right here. And let me just stop here parenthetically, let you understand that you need to know where the field is that God's placed in your destiny. This is your field right here. You don't need to go to no other field, because this is where you're going to find favor. So he talks, and she's in the field, and I look at the text, and I'm seeing this, and he says, don't go anywhere. Stay right here. Follow behind my young women. They're the workers in the field. And listen, just pick up what you're seeing that they're dropping. And he says there, verse 9, I've warned those young men not to treat you roughly. Now, the first thing was favor of pursuit. The second thing is favor of protection. How many of you understand that when you're walking with God, God will protect you? Oh, God, help me, somebody here. God will protect you. I believe Isaiah 54:17 says, no weapon formed against thee shall prosper. Every tongue that rises against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me. God has your back. He's got you covered. Doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about what you think the boss is trying to do to you. God has your back. You don't have to be in every meeting. God is in the meeting when you're not in the meeting. And because God has got favor covering you, you don't have to worry about your future promotion or well-being. God already has it taken care of, and nobody can stop what God has ordered with his will. I looked at this text here, And so I see this girl being chased down by favor. Favor is running after her, and it reminded me of Deuteronomy 28:2. And these blessings shall come and overtake you, and they shall hearken to the voice of the Lord. I thank God that when you're in the favor of God, you don't have to sleep around to get up. You don't have to lie, cheat. All you got to do is be what God called you to be. Do what God called you to do. Be where God planted you. And come on, y'all, talk to me here. And God will cause your destiny to turn around and catch you and drag you into your place of success and promotion, because God has put favor in the field. I looked at the text here and I kept looking at this thing, and so a conversation begins to develop. Boaz says, they had this conversation and they're talking. In verse 10, the text says, Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly and said, what have I done to deserve this favor? And I like Boaz's answer, and I need you to hear this real carefully. He answered, verse 11. He basically says, and let me kind of give me a little ecclesiastical liberty, just a little bit, and Gardnerize this. Let me tell you what he didn't say before I tell you what he said. Although I assume she was a decent looking lady, there was little eisegesis to dramatize the text. But to really be exegetic with the text, it wasn't her looks that caused her favor. He didn't say because you're pretty, because you got your hair done right, because I like your shoes, because I like your dress, I like your car, I like your house. He didn't say that. This is what he said. He said in verse 11, he said, and Boaz answered, it has been fully reported to me all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother and the land of your birth and have come to a place which you did not know before. He basically said, I'm giving you favor not because of what you can do, who you are, but I'm giving you favor because you're faithful. You didn't just take off because it didn't look right or look good. You hung in there because you were connected in relationship. You were mature. You weren't just having a consumer mentality. You had a retail. It's been given to me, now I'm going to give back to somebody else. That's the thing I learned about favor. God blesses you when you're faithful. Because when God looks at you and he says, I got a saint down there that doesn't run and trip out and go to the next big show, but they stay where I planted them because they see my purpose bigger than their personal pleasure. Don't have to worry about you leaving because you couldn't sing your song this morning. Because you're faithful. Then she said, let me find favor in your sight. My Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your maidservant. Even though I'm not one of yours, God will favor you in places that he planted you in. Even though there are people around that have been there before you. And by all rights of nepotism, they've got a right to have more than you. But see, this is what favor does. Favor puts you from the back of the line to the front of the line. And he does it with a word. All Boaz had to do was speak a word to her situation, and she went from being a foreigner to, hit me somebody here, walking in victory in a strange land. I looked at the text here. I saw favor provision. I saw favor privilege. And I thought about Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, thoughts of not evil, to give you an expected end. I don't know how this thing But one thing I do know, I'm walking in the flow of God. And now you need to develop a mentality of favor and expectation. The next time you go to City Hall, the next time you go to the bank, the next time you go before that board for promotion, the next time you take that police exam, I don't know why I said that, the next time you go before the next licensing board, you need to walk in with favor, and you need to know, don't beat yourself up before the battle. Understand that you got a roof anointing on you, and God has a favor. You may be a brother, so I don't know, maybe you rock. I don't know, but just know that God has favor on your life. Then I saw the favor of protection. I saw the favor of provision. Now I see the favor of privilege. And verse 15, and she arose and she began to glean. And he told those men, y'all leave her alone. Verse 15, I'm cutting across the field. He said, y'all don't bother her. I want you to leave her alone. Take care of her. And I thought it was interesting how verse 15, specifically the writer, whoever wrote this book, said, and Boaz commanded his young men. He didn't say he went to his old men. Didn't say he went to his middle-aged men. He went to his young men. He said, you young brothers, you listen, the young jits, hear me. Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. In fact, verse 16, and also let from the bundles fall purposefully for her, leave it that she may glean it and don't break it. In other words, while you holding your sack, I want you to trip a little bit. Oops. Excuse me. Oops. I want you to make sure that she's blessed on purpose. Is anybody here ever got a blessing from God on purpose? It was so ridiculous. It made absolutely no sense. God had to do this on purpose. Anybody living in a purpose blessing, walking in a purpose blessing, he did it on purpose. Listen. Privilege. This girl gets back, she's so excited. She got in the field, she ran back home. And now the favor of providence. Now providence. And she takes off, verse 19, and she gets home to Naomi. And where did you glean today, Ruth? She said, well, I had an amazing day. They sat down for some girl talk. And, they said, hold on, let me close the door. Let me turn this TV down. Girl, tell me what went on today. So they sit down, they start talking, and she said, "Oh my God, I went to this field, and I had to skip through because it was probably very detailed." My wife and Ruth could have been real good friends, so I'm gonna skip through the details, and here it is. This man named Boaz just started blessing me. Boaz, but Naaman say, did you say what his name was? Boaz. You talking about down there, Boaz, up around the corner, Boaz? God, oh Lord, Jesus. God is good. That's our kin peoples. You got to understand something. In the Jewish culture, they had this law that a relative, kinsman, could redeem the property and family, wife of a relative. Now remember, they're living in a harsh environment, tough situation, struggling. The culture was not kind to women. And so a woman at that time had to have a man in her life to kind of survive and be competitive in the marketplace. And she didn't have that. And in fact, there were two women together. And so now Boaz, the relative, has a chance to redeem the situation. And so now I got excited because when I looked at the text here, verse 20, and Naomi said to her daughter, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not forgotten forsaken his kindness to the living dead." And Naomi said to her, "This man is a relation of ours and one of our close relatives." Here's what I want you to know before I get ready to just kind of sit down. I've learned that all things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. God has a purpose, and if you love him, it's going to work out. Why don't you help me preach this? Let's look at somebody and nudge them and say, it's going to work out. It may not make sense right now, but it's going to work out. Matter of fact, God has already worked it out. All you got to do is just start moving. So then, one, we saw the favor of pursuit. 2, the favor of protection. 3, the favor of provision. 4, the favor of privilege. 5, we see the favor of providence. 6, and finally, we see the favor of purchase. Let me explain what goes on. Naomi says, let me tell you what you need to do. You go back tomorrow. Girl, listen to what you do now. Hear me well. Now, mama finna teach you something. Young lady, it do good to hear me right now. Sit down. Now, when you go back, you do what you just been doing. You just be chilling. At the end of the day, when Boaz has worked and he's tired, and he's gone, he's had something to eat and drink, he's gone into the threshing house, the winnowing threshing house where he separated the husk from the grain, loosened up the seed in threshing, and winnowed it with the winnowing fan, and separated the barley from the chaff. He says when he's done, he's going to get him something to drink and eat. He's going to go rest. You just stay back. Wait till he's rested. Now, listen to the mama talk. Reminded me that earlier Boaz sent her some signals. Because the first day she went out, he invited her to dinner with everybody. And he specifically said, you can eat, from our table. And you can dip your bread in the vinegar. As a matter of fact, while they were sitting at the table, he gave her specific, you can dip your bread in the vinegar. So while they're sitting down there, he passed, some bread on down. And I can imagine in my mind's eye, people sitting at the table, oh, he passing bread down. And I can say, And people who weren't paying attention, And there she was. So he sent her some signals. And so now, long day, work, he's tired, he turns in. Now, people have misinterpreted this text and made it wrong, and it's not a wrong, it's a beautiful text. Let me tell you what happens. She says, go to his bed chambers while he's sleeping and take a corner of his cover, fold it up, expose his feet, and lay down. That's all. That's it. So in the middle of the night, bruh sleeping, somebody down by his feet startles him. She said, hold it, wait a minute, it's me. It's me. It's me, oh. And she says, listen, I have something to offer you. I got a proposition. Listen, I'm here with Naomi, my mother-in-law, and we, the situation we're in. We want you to redeem us. And he says, wow. And here's what, and he was a little hypocritical because he says, and I got to skip through it. He says, well, I'm just honored that you would ask me and not these young men. Excuse me, Boaz, but you done told the young men to stay out the way. Read the text. I promise you it's in the text. I mean, really, he's playing, I told you he was an OG. You can tell an OG. He's saved now, but you can tell. And so he's sitting there and he says, I'll do it. I'll do it. Bless God, I'll do it. Yes, I will. I'm honored that you even asked me. And so he says, listen, you need to get out of here before the sun comes up because I don't want nobody to see you going out of here. So she leaves and gets out. And he tells the person, there's another one that has a high rate. And we're going to take care of this. And so he goes to town. So this is all Ruth's plan, or Naomi's plan. She gave the proposition. And he calls a meeting. And everybody comes to the meeting. And he says, listen, y'all know Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth are here, and you know, Marlon's property and Limelech's inheritance. We got to figure out what we're going to do. Now, you, brother, are the one that's rightfully in line to redeem them. So would you take the property? And the guy said, oh yeah. I've been looking to expand the family prop. Sure will. And so Boaz says, good. Now, you do know that with the land comes Ruth, and you got to marry her. And plus, you need to go ahead and Naomi too. You know, they all together. And the guy specifically says, well, I can't do that because that may mess up my inheritance. How many of y'all know if he'd have went home with Ruth and Naomi, his wife would have messed up his inheritance? I wish somebody had talked to me. So he said, no, I can't do it. And so Boaz said, man, that's a tragedy. I will, because I'm next. I got you. Don't worry about it. Somebody got to do this for this family, and I'll just do it. I'll just take care of this here. And so he turns around, he marries Ruth, redeems the family, and they have a baby named Obed who happens to be, Lord have mercy, Jesse's dad. Jesse had David. David's lineage ended up having Jesus somewhere in there. You mean to tell me that Jesus' lineage, if you trace up, you can find a Moabite woman up in there? What you're saying, preacher? I'm saying that from the beginning of the situation, nobody knew that a famine in Bethlehem would lead to Jesus on the cross. All I'm trying to tell you is don't judge your situation how it looks now. You got to understand that even though that it doesn't make sense, God has a plan that he's working on. Do I have a witness in here? Yeah, Naomi was a reject. Ruth, she was a reject. But the good news is that even though they were rejects, God likes to bargain shop sometimes. Yeah, it reminds me sometimes when I drop by Marshall's, or I even drop by Ross. I know some of y'all like to go to Neiman Marcus. And I know some of y'all like to hang out in Saks Fifth Avenue. And I know some of y'all like to hang out in fine stores. But every now and then, I don't mind dropping by TJ Maxx. Do I have a witness? I don't mind dropping by an outlet store just because it may have a missing button, I can still wear it. I said all that to tell you this. He looked at me and I didn't have all my buttons in right, but he's using me anyway. Is there anybody here can testify you hadn't always looked as good as you look right now, but he looked beyond all of your faults and he saw your needs? Do I have a witness in here? God will take a reject and clean it up and use it in his service. I don't know about you. I should have been dead and gone, sleeping in my grave, but he looked beyond my faults and he saw my needs. Won't God reach way down and he pull you up and give you another chance? Is there anybody here sitting on another chance? Not a second chance. I used that one up already, but another chance. I'm grateful that he did. I look back in Calvary and my testimony is I've been redeemed. I've been bought with a price. I was a sinner, a wretch undone, but Jesus died on Calvary's hill. They hung him high, stretched him wide. He bowed his head. For me, he died. He died. Is there anybody here know it? He died. He died on that cross. cross. But the good news is, if my granddaddy was here, he'd tell you early, Sunday morning, he got out of that grave and he had all power. Is there anybody here that's a recipient of this power? Thank God, power to save my soul. He's got power to save your daughter, to save your son, to save your sister, to save your brother, to save your husband. I know it may look bad, but I tell you this morning, favor has got you covered. Favor has got it in the bank. Do me one favor. Slap your neighbor high five. Say, thank God for favor. Favor. I got favor. Ooh, I got favor, y'all. Yeah. Yeah. I cried, but I got favor. I hadn't always had a collar around my neck. My testimony is, I've been a bad boy. I've been a bad boy. I've been a bad boy. Bad boy. Bad boy. What you gonna do when they come for you? Tell you what I did. I went to Jesus. He is Alpha and Omega. He is the bright and morning star. He picked me up, washed me all over. Turn. No, he's all right. No, he's all right. Is there anybody here? No, he's all right. Won't he walk with you? Won't he talk with you? Won't he let you know that you are his own? Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Good evening, New Birth. Good evening, Bishop Curry. But God will bring you out, and you're coming out fine. You look better than what you did before you went in. Do me one more favor, and I'm going to sit down. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I don't look like what I've been through. That's all I got to tell you. I don't look like what I've been through. I don't look like what I've been through. I should be tore up from the floor up, but I don't look like what I've been through, because I serve a good God. Ain't he good? Ain't he good? Ain't he good? Yes, he. Stand to your feet all over the building. Oh, y'all excuse me. I feel him. Oh, I tried to say. Yeah. Ow! Oh, hey! Well, just go ahead. Take about 3 seconds. But before you do, I want you to grab your neighbor by the hand one more time. I want you to say, neighbor, when I come out, you coming out. Because when I come out, I'm pulling you with me. When I count to 3, start tugging on him. 1, 2, 3. how to dance, don't worry about it, because I don't know how to dance either. But let me tell you what I do. Since I don't know how to dance, you can bob and weave, or you can just jump up and down. Your choice. 1, 2, 3, go! Ask you a question. If you knew that God would answer every one of your prayers and give you every desire of your heart after this next praise, what kind of praise would you give him?
Your support of this ministry is most appreciated. You may give online through Givelify, or you can directly visit our website at www.friendshipchurchtampa.org. Lastly, if you prefer, you may give by way of mail at 3201 East Lake Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33610. Even though we are not physically meeting, the demands of the church continue. So again, your support of this ministry is most appreciated, and we thank you so much for your support.